Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the All Star Wrestling Review Series for August 28th, 1982. As noticed, these are out of sequence. They come to me and I bring them to you. We continue to bring you the best in wrestling audio. We'll have over 1,500 within the next week or so. My goal is to have the largest wrestling audio review archive on YouTube and on the internet within the next several years, but need your help with what you'd like to see us review. Anyway, Tony Garea and Steve Travis defeat Sweet Hansen and Jose Estrada in the opening bout here this week. Summer 82 is a big run for Jimmy Snuka at this time, and a lot of people certainly look at him as a guy who is that everyone should be super into. Obviously, we see the heels come in and stay pretty well on their adversaries rather aggressively in the early stages. I don't know that Travis and Garea are regular partners, but Sweet Hansen and Jose Estrada are pretty aggressive individuals. Travis gets chopped around by Hansen. Hansen not known for being a good guy, known for being a good heel, but as a person, just completely despicable. And people can do research if they want to look into that. Regardless, Jose Estrada, who is a mainstay for the next several years, both in masked gimmicks and in his regular gimmick, pretty big deal here. Tag off and Travis stays on a huge run there. We then see Hansen, who gets, in a good run, and Hansen sends his man into the buckle, and again, kind of the entire early part of the match, anyway, story-wise, includes Travis managing to get pretty well massacred by his adversary. Garea doesn't make his way in all that much, but I think Garea, as a former tag team champion, probably doesn't want to get involved in this type of a match because there isn't a lot of future to it. A brawl on the outside ensues a little bit, and Steve Travis finally does fight back for himself a little bit, although not as much as some would consider. Hard shots along the way, and we kind of keep going in that vein. Garea finally does tag in, drop kicks and hip tosses all the way around. He is capable of a crossbody, and the crossbody leads to a victory for his team, defeating Jose Estrada. Then we move to Buddy Rose with the Grand Wizard defeating Barry Hart, which Buddy Rose at the time in for a series with Bob Backlund around at the major clubs, the Garden and the like, and he's still a major heel in the Portland area, is Buddy Rose. And Buddy Rose, super underrated guy for a number of reasons. He marches his way around the ring and is delaying getting started with his opponent. He uses his weight and power to get the advantage that he believes he is worthy of, for lack of better terminology. And then we see him again cutting things off. Doesn't get all he wants on that. The Grand Wizard on the outside spurring him on to be a little more aggressive. He uses the buckle and manages to do exactly that. Big body slams, and again, gets all he wants out of that process. Big, kind of a backdrop. It looks like a back suplex, but into a backbreaker. And then amazingly goes to the top rope, hits the knee off the top, does Rose, and gets a victory with that. Getting ready for Backlund at the major clubs, Madison Square Garden, Boston, and the like. Superstar Billy Graham with the Grand Wizard defeats Jeff Craney with a bear hug in just under 2.5 minutes. This is the Kung Fu version of Billy Graham, and it's easy to tell that he does not want to be anywhere near being here. He's just uninspired, unhappy, and downright miserable. Forearms and Irish whip. Obviously, still kind of, I'm sure, bitter about losing the World Championship back in '78. Even all these years later, in the sense that his career never really rebounds, and I think had he had a babyface run, who knows how early wrestling would have changed. Anyway, maybe his body would have given out sooner. Maybe it would have given him the adrenaline to keep going for a little while longer and have a good run. But anyway, we move to Pedro Morales defeating Mac Rivera, but that's not before Vince is plugging various things, including a superstar or a series of interviews. Superfly Jimmy Snuka, Lou Albano, pretty well convinced that, in fact, that Snuka is unstoppable, unbeatable, and anything that challenges that thought is not something that he wants to deal with. Plugs for an upcoming series between Bob Backlund, the WWF champion, and Buddy Rose. Backlund is tired of all of that. And Rose says he's from the Portland Northwest and he's going to win the championship. He's spelt, he looks good, he feels good, and he's not taking a backward step under any circumstance. We then see, as we go to Bob Orton Jr. with the Grand Wizard. Grand Wizard all over this program, actually. Steve King is his opponent for the day. Not exactly a challenging match. Bob Orton Jr., of course, the father of Randy Orton, the current WWE superstar. Orton stays on the leg of King pretty aggressively here. Stays on pretty assertively. And again, we get to a bit of a hookup there and ultimately gets to a hanging suplex followed by a superplex from the second rope. Orton, probably one of the most underrated people in a lot of ways, in the sense that he can make anything look good if he really wants to. Salvatore Bellomo and Charlie Fulton. Fulton, a very underrated talent in his own right, just because he never really got major pushes that many places, but always a good hand and brings out the best, and has a good bit of technical prowess that many undervalue and underestimate for a variety of reasons. It's hard to be in a role where you're an underestimated talent on a continual basis, that's for sure. And unfortunately for Mr. Fulton, that happens throughout his career in a good number of places. Fulton sends his opponent into the buckle pretty hard during the early stages. Notice these matches all run about 3 to 5 minutes for the most part, except your main event match. Fulton, with a big body slam, almost looks like he's going to press slam him before he does the body slam, but decides into a more traditionalized body slam instead. Bellomo does get a win with an airplane spin and raising both the Italian and American flags, as he is Italian-American going forward. The Italian population of wrestling fans in major clubs, Pennsylvania, New York, and Boston, pretty strong during this time period. I don't know where the Italian contingent went as far as wrestling fans. Probably they went to MMA or boxing, but needless to say, they are pretty aggressive here. Anyway, tag team champions Mr. Fuji and Mr. Saito with Captain Lou Albano, defeating S.D. Jones and Frankie Williams, 7.5 minutes, which is the longest bout on the show, I'm pretty sure. Of course, everybody knows Frankie Williams as an enhancement talent, not realizing that a few years before he was actually in a tag team championship style match. Hard kicks by Sika to S.D. Jones, and managing to do the best he can with things, and kind of a side Russian leg sweep and pinfall attempted there. Hard shots by Jones manages to get into the wrong corner, but after that tags off to not Petey Williams, Frankie Williams, who is befallen with the same fate. Captain Lou Albano choking him out over the bottom rope, and then we see work over the leg of Williams, and needless to say, SD Jones not happy with that fate of his adversary. Mr. Fuji gets the bombs away and gets a victory for his tag team championship partner. Rocky Johnson, the father of none other than The Rock, is not on this program, but a man that looks a lot like him is, and that's actually why I wrote him down, because the very stunning, similar body figures, obviously skin tone and other notable differences are here, but similarities between Rocky Johnson, muscularity-wise, and Polish Power Ivan Putski, who's back in the company and promising to bring the fans his band of merriment and brawling. Coming up, Bob Bradley, one of my favorite enhancement talents of all time, against Jimmy Snuka, the Superfly, with Captain Lou Albano. Albano has not been abusive to Jimmy quite yet, not in a way that makes him turn away anyway. Bradley, I think this might even be Bradley's rookie year or pretty close to it. Stun gun across the top rope by Snuka. Snuka manages to abolish his opponent in just under 3.5 minutes with the Superfly Splash. That will get us to the end of this program. We'll be back with more right after this.